You can never have enough maps, and not the digital kind. What we need are the printed, hard copies of them. We also don't have the international plan, so we can't even guarantee that we'll have internet access on our trip, so having physical copies will be the best course of action to take. The question now becomes, how will we be transporting all of them? Greetings and welcome back to Checkpoint Gaming, Take It a Ride. With this episode, it will be covering the board game variants of the game. With the USA 1910 expansion, it introduces 3 new ways of play upon the United States map, which consists of 1910, Mega City, Mega Game, and Big Cities. In order to play the 1910 version, players may select only use the destination tickets that possess the 1910 logo found in the upper right-hand corner of the ticket instead of using the standard tickets. Next is the Mega Game, where both of the bonus cards that come with the expansion are in play. From there, shuffle all 69 destination ticket cards and deal 5 to each player. Each player will then have to keep at least 3, but they can keep more if they wish. During the game, and whenever a player wants to draw destination tickets, they draw 4, keep at least 1, and any discarded tickets will go back to the bottom of the destination ticket deck. Finally, we have Big Cities, where the players will only use the destination tickets that feature at least 1 big city on it. Big cities are indicated by being printed in red and consist of Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, and Seattle. There are a total of 35 such tickets, where 15 of them are from the original game and 20 are from the 1910 expansion, and includes 1 from the Mystery Chain expansion. When the game starts, shuffle the Big City's destination ticket cards, followed by dealing 4 to each player. From there, each player will have to keep at least 2 of them, though they can keep more if they wish. When it comes to that of drawing new destination ticket cards, their player will draw 4 of them and keep at least 1, with the discard tickets going back to the bottom of the destination ticket deck. With the Europa 1912 expansion, it introduces 3 new ways of play upon the Europe map, which consists of Europe Expanded, Mega Europe, and Big Cities of Europe. With Europe Expanded, it adds 19 new regular destination tickets that possess the 1912 logo on them to the original set of destination tickets that do not have the 1912 logo on them. Beyond that, all the other rules remain the same. With Mega Europe, shuffle all 12 long destination tickets together and deal 2 to each player, with each player keeping at least 1 or none of them, but never both of them. From there, discard all long destinations that are not kept and are removed from the game. From there, shuffle all of the other tickets, both regular and Big City, new and original, from the expansion together and deal 5 out to each player. If keeping a long route, the player will have to now keep at least 2 of these other tickets. But if the player didn't keep a long route, this player will have to keep at least 3 instead. From there, all the rules remain unchanged. With Big Cities of Europe, the long destination tickets are not used in this version. Place the Big Cities of Europe that possess the Big Cities logo on it and have the cards visible to all the players. Shuffle all Big Cities destination tickets and then deal 5 to each player. Each player will have to keep at least 2. During the game, if a player chooses to draw new destination tickets, then they will have to draw 4 and have to keep at least 1. With the Netherlands map, it has an option for players to play without the use of the Bristol tokens. If there are 2 to 3 players and they are not playing with the use of Bristol tokens, then only 1 of each of the double routes are allowed to be played as per the standard rules of the game. In games that have 2 players and they wish to use the Bristol tokens, then it is suggested that they add a neutral player. With this neutral player, they will play during the neutral player phase in each turn which is alternately guided by each of the 2 live players. For the neutral player, choose a color for it and then place 40 of its train cards next to the board, followed by giving 1 extra train of the neutral player's color to the second player. This train will serve as a neutral player marker to help keep track of which player's turn it is to play as a neutral player. During the first 5 turns of the game, the neutral player is not to be played. Simply use a score marker or one of its trains to keep track of the number of turns that have been taken. Then starting on the 6th turn, a new phase will be added, which is known as the neutral player phase and is found on each turn, which occurs after both of the live players have taken their turns. During this phase, the player who possesses the neutral player marker will reveal the destination ticket from the top of the destination ticket deck and turn it face up. If there are no cities listed on the bottom of the ticket, then nothing will happen. From there, discard the ticket and move on to the next turn. But if there are 2 cities listed at the bottom of the ticket, then the player who is currently holding their neutral player marker must clean the route between the 2 cities. This is done by placing the neutral player's colored trains onto it on behalf of the neutral player. If both routes are vacant, the player can choose which one to claim. The player will then discard the ticket used and will then pass the neutral player marker to the other player. But if one side of the double route has already been claimed by a player which consists of either of the living players, then the neutral player will have to pay the corresponding cost in Bristol tokens that is taken for the bait for said player. In either case, since there was no choice to make, the player will keep the neutral player marker and will then discard the destination ticket card that was just used. With Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and Rotterdam, Antwerp, they appear at the bottom of 2 tickets each. If the neutral player has already built this route when the second ticket lists this route at its bottom appears, then treat this second ticket as if it was blank. Once there is not enough neutral player trains left to claim a route, then the neutral player will stop playing. Its marker is discarded and there's no more neutral player phases. Likewise, if the destination ticket deck is empty, discard the neutral player marker and there are no more neutral player phases. From there, reshuffle all discarded destination tickets in order to form a new destination ticket deck. With the United Kingdom map, it has the option of playing with advanced technologies which can be added to the game for more competitive experiences. It is worth noting that the number of advanced technologies is limited. The same rules for standard technologies are also in play with advanced technologies. With Thermal Compressor, there's only one copy of it. It costs one locomotive to purchase, and when played, it allows the player to claim 2 routes this turn before returning the card to be bought again. With Water Tenders, Risky Contracts, and Equalizing Beam, they all cost 2 locomotives to purchase. With Water Tenders, there are 2 copies of it, and when drawing train car cards, the player can decide to draw 3 blind cards instead of the regular 2. With a Risky Contract, there's 1 copy of it, and at the end of the game, score 20 points, and the player who possesses it has the most completed tickets. If not, the said player will lose 20 points instead. With the Equalizing Beam, there's 1 copy of it, and at the end of the game, score 15 points, and the player who possesses it has the most completed tickets. If not, the said player will lose 15 points instead. With Risky Contracts and Equalizing Beams, they will also have to be bought before the train car cards are reshuffled. Once they are reshuffled, then these cards cannot be purchased and will have to be placed back in the box. With Diesel Power, it costs 3 locomotives to purchase, and there is 1 copy of it. When claiming a route, the player will get to play 1 less card than is required, so said player will have to pay at least 1 card, and they cannot ignore the locomotive icon found on the ferry route. With the Old West map, the variant that exists for it is Alvin the Alien, where Alvin will start the game in Roswell, because of course he would. It is also worth noting that no player is allowed to start the game in Roswell, and no player is allowed to place a city marker in Roswell during the game. For the first player to claim a route that leads into Roswell will capture Alvin and will immediately score 10 points. Said player will have to then move Alvin to another city they control, including their starting city. When another player claims a route into the city that possesses Alvin, said player will capture him and receive 10 points and move Alvin to a city that they control. This will continue for the remainder of the game. For the player who controls Alvin at the end of the game, they will receive the Alvin bonus card, which will add 10 points to their score. With warehouses and depots, though introduced for the Europe map, they can be used with any ticketed ride map. When they are used, all the other rules are the same with the following exceptions. First, at the start of the game, once the players have received the train car cards and selected the destination tickets, each player will get a warehouse and 5 depots of the matching color. From there, the warehouse is to be placed in front of each player with 4 depots placed next to it. The 5th depot is then placed on any city found on the board, starting with the player who will be going last and proceeding counterclockwise around the table. Once this has been completed, the game will begin. Second, each time a player uses their turn to draw train car cards, they will have to first draw the top card off of the train car deck and place it onto a warehouse, either their own or into another player's, without looking at it, before drawing their own train car cards into their hand. Third, each time a player uses their turn to claim a route into a city with the player's depot in it, the player will pick all of the train car cards from the player's warehouse by discarding one of their depots from the warehouse back into the box. Fourth, in addition to their regular turn, a player can always take 1 or more of their depots that are sold next to their warehouse and place them into any empty cities, which counts as a free action. Fifth, at the end of the game, the player or players with the most unused depot or depots next to the warehouse will score 10 points for each unused depot. In the case of a tie, all 5 players will score this bonus. In addition to what has already been addressed, there will be some additional details I will need to go over. First, there can never be more than 1 depot found in a city. Once placed onto the board, the depot can never be moved or removed from the map. And if playing Europe, a depot can never coexist with a station. Depots that are placed on the board cannot be discarded in order to pick train car cards that filed in a warehouse. Second, players can pick cards from their own warehouse when claiming a route into a city that contains one of their own depots. Players can also pick cards from 2 warehouses in a single turn when the claimed route connects 2 cities where each city possesses its own depot. To do this, the player will have to discard 2 of their own depots. Third, the number of train car cards stored in a warehouse is open information, so anyone can ask how many cards are in any warehouse. Fourth, in the unlikely event that there is no more train car cards left to draw or reshuffle and 1 or more players have ran out of depots, then all warehouses are immediately emptied out and the train car cards are to be reshuffled into a new draw pile. When the Alvin and Baxter expansion, after completing the game's normal setup and all players have selected their destination tickets, the player who is going to be last will place Alvin on any given city on the map. From there, the player found to said player's right will then place Dexter on any other city of their choice. When this has been completed, place the 2 decks of Alvin and Dexter cards next to the board with the bonus cards next to the game's regular bonus cards. With any destination that possesses a monster, it is a city that is in chaos. When a destination is in chaos, players are not allowed to claim a route that goes into or out of said destination. At any time during the player's turn, in addition to their normal actions, the player can play 1 or 2 locomotive cards from the hand. Upon performing this, the player will acquire a monster card followed by moving the corresponding monster on the map. The player will then discard the locomotive card or cards and take the monster card of their choice and placing it face up in front of them. From there, if playing 1 locomotive, move the corresponding monster up to 3 destinations away from its current position on the map. If playing 2 locomotives, move the corresponding monster up to 6 destinations away from its corresponding position on the map. At the end of this turn, the player will flip their chosen monster card face down and then stack it on top of any other monster cards they may have already acquired. It is important to note that if there are no more monster cards left, then said players are not allowed to move the corresponding monster. When a monster card is visible face up and in front of the player, then this monster cannot be moved. The player also can never move both monsters during the same turn. It is even possible for a monster to stay in the same destination after the game has started. The number of monster cards that players collect is kept secret once the card is turned face down. At the end of the game, any tickets that include a destination that is in chaos then is worth half of its normal point value, rounding down when necessary. From there, the player with the most Alvin or Dexter monster cards will score the Alvin or Dexter bonus card. If 2 or more players are tied with the most cards for a given monster, then the tying players will score the bonus. So with that said, that's what you need to know about the board game variants of the game. If you like this episode, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to stay up to date on any future episodes we upload, go ahead and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/checkpointgaming. See you in the next episode, and happy gaming.